Environment Minister requests lawmakers to ratify Kigali Amendment on hydrofluorocarbon. World leaders call for an international treaty to combat future pandemics. Protesters in Yangon launch a garbage strike amid rising killings of citizens. These and more coming on the World Today. Stay tuned. Good evening, viewers. You're watching the World Today newscast with me, Sohna Tunkara, and now to our news in detail. Lamin B. Diba, Minister for Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources, has requested lawmakers to consider the ratification of the Kigali Amendment to phase down consumption and production of hydrofluorocarbons. The Kigali Agreement is a Montreal Protocol, which is an environmental treaty signed by countries to phase out ozone-depleting substances from the Earth's atmosphere. Here is more of that in this report.
Hydrofluorocarbons are super greenhouse gases manufactured for use in refrigeration, air conditioning, foam blowing, fire protection, and solvents. HFCs, unlike most other greenhouse gases, are not waste products but are intentionally produced. The Kigali Amendment, which the Environment Minister requests Parliament's ratification, aims to reduce the amount of greenhouse gas by cutting their production and consumption. Minister of Environment, Climate Change and Natural Resources Lamin B. Diba gave reasons why Gambia should ratify the Kigali Amendment.
Honorable Speaker, in the face of increasing challenge to protect the ozone layer, there is need to enhance global efforts in this endeavor. The Gambia is among those countries in Africa that are severely hit by the growing consumption of high global warming potential gases, substances, which impact human health, environment, and economic growth. The Gambia belongs to the developing countries that is expected to phase down 80% of the consumption or production in the year 2045.
Minister Diba also highlights the benefits Gambia will gain for ratifying the amendment.
Benefits of ratifying the Kigali Amendment. Honorable Speaker, this amendment will enable the Gambia to phase down the consumption and production of hydrofluorocarbons under the Montreal Protocol, thus a significant contribution to the fight against global warming. The phase down of hydrofluorocarbons is expected to avoid up to 0.5 degrees Celsius of global temperature rise by 2100, while continuing to protect the ozone layer.
The gradual heating of Earth's surface, ozones, and atmosphere is caused by human activity, primarily the burning of fossil fuels that pump carbon dioxide, methane, and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Meanwhile, lawmakers have unanimously considered the ratification of the Kigali Amendment presented by the Environment Minister. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
The Gambia's Environment Minister requests lawmakers to ratify Kigali Amendment on hydrofluorocarbon. Now, the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations, through the Ministry of Fisheries and Water Resources, has handed over a cistern and solar power pump facilities to the fish smoking house in Gunjur. The gesture, according to officials, is aimed at empowering women in the smoking business. Binta Fati has the rest of that story.
Recent reports appear to show that women perform 66% of the world's work and produce 50% of the food. However, they earn only 10% of the incomes and own 1 to 2% of the properties. In developing countries, especially in the Gambia, women face so many challenges, especially those in the informal sector, despite help from the government and other international organizations. The fixed smokers in Gunjur, majority of whom are women, are not an exception. These women normally work longer days in an unhealthy environment. The project, funded by the FAO through the Ministry of Fisheries, aimed at lessening some of the challenges the women in the fish smoking industry face. Sahibu Rampedi, FAO country representative to the Gambia, emphasized the important commitment in the fisheries sector. Rampedi assured the women of FAO's commitment to help them make the facility an international standard one.
Fish smoking is quite a challenging task for them. Our wish as the FAO is that we should help the women, we should help the community, so that as they do their work, they are able to meet the international sanitary requirements. Because unless they do so, they will continue to lose some of their fish consignment, because when one works towards export, there has to be that requirement to meet the sanitary measures.
James Gomez, the Minister of Fisheries and Water Resources, thanked the FAO for their unflinching support to the government of the Gambia. Honorable Gomez challenged the women to make the best and proper use of the facilities to improve production. He also disclosed that similar programs are on the way to build 4 of these facilities across the country.
And like I told you 2 years ago, this facility is yours. FAO and our government in partnership has enabled this to be here. Now it is your responsibility to not only take good care of the place, but to make sure now that you improve the work you are doing here that will enable you to earn more, particularly food for the family and foreign exchange.
The representative of the women in Gunjur, Maria Mondong, expressed delight in having the facilities at their workplace. Maria Mondong said constant water supply is no longer part of their challenges.
Every one of us here has water supply the way we need, unless it is not utilized the way it needs to be. Water supply is no longer part of our problems.
The facility is supported with a sea stand that has a capacity of 50,000 liters, 1,800 watts of solar electricity supply, and a plastic tank with the capacity of 4,000 liters to improve the production capacity and sanitary requirements of the Gunjur Fish Smoking House. Reporting for Our Africa TV News, I am Binta Fati.
Gunjur Fish Smoking House has received solar power and other materials from FAO. And from that report by Binta Fati, leaders of 23 countries and the World Health Organization has backed an idea to create an international treaty that will help the world deal with future health emergencies like the coronavirus pandemic. The main goal of a new international treaty for pandemic preparedness and response will be to foster a comprehensive multi-sectoral approach to strengthen national, regional, and global capacities and resilience to future pandemics. Desise files in this report.
According to the world leaders, the treaty will be rooted in the Constitution of the World Health Organization, drawing in other relevant organizations key to this endeavor in support of the principle of health for all. The World Health Organization's Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, said the treaty will provide a structure for international cooperation and solidarity.
This treaty would strengthen the implementation of the international health regulations, and critically, it would also provide a framework for international cooperation and solidarity. The key issues it would address could include building resilience to pandemics and other global health emergencies with robust national and global preparedness systems, ensuring timely and equitable access to pandemic countermeasures, including vaccines, supporting sustainable funding and capacity for prevention, detection, and responses to outbreaks, and promote mutual trust.
The European Council President, Charles Michel, acknowledged that the pandemic requires a global approach as no country can fight it alone.
And through this treaty, our main goal is to foster a comprehensive approach to better predict, prevent, and respond to pandemics, to strengthen global capacities and resilience, to ensure fair access to medical solutions, and to bolster international alert systems, data sharing, and cutting-edge medical research.
Dr. Majwa, Assistant Director General of Emergency Preparedness and IHR at WHO, said the treaty might help in covering critical elements of the pandemic response, which were not covered by the international health regulations.
The IHR is a really very powerful legal instrument for preparedness, for alert and sharing information on outbreak and epidemic and other health crises, and also for travel measures. The IHR, when it was designed in 2005, doesn't cover some critical element of the response, like President Michel said, the supply chain is not covered by the IHR. The sharing of the virus, the research and development, which is a key to discover and new countermeasures. And the treaty may cover this area to complement the role of the IHR as the legal instrument for preparedness and alert.
The 23rd heads of government and international agencies signaled that a high-level political action is needed to protect the world from future health crises. Although the commentary has been signed by the initiating member countries, reports appear to suggest that there was no indication of any country too soon changing its current approach to the pandemic response. According to reports, China, Russia, and the United States did not join the call for an international treaty. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
In order to avert another global pandemic, WHO leaders are calling for an international treaty. Still on the global front, the International Monetary Fund (IMF) is predicting an accelerated global economic growth out of the pandemic, but warns that there may remain obstacles and uncertainty to the outlook of the economies. In a speech to the Council on Foreign Relations, the IMF's Managing Director, Kristalina, outlined the key messages the fund will focus on next week during the spring meetings, bringing together the leadership of its 190 member countries.
Assessing the April 6th launch of the World Economic Outlook, International Monetary Fund's Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva announced that the fund projects an upgrade to January's global growth prediction of 5.5% in 2021 due to policy support and improved recovery backed by vaccinations.
In January, we projected global growth at 5.5% in 2021. We now expect a further acceleration, partly because of additional policy support, including the new fiscal package in the United States, partly because of the expected vaccine-powered recovery in many advanced economies later this year. This allows us for an upward revision to our global forecast for this year and for 2022.
She says China and the US are leading in the economic recovery process and will have their GDPs leveled at the end of the year. According to her, the COVID-19 crisis didn't sink the world into a financial crisis because of the measures countries implemented to control the pandemic, but work together in making banking systems resilient. Kristalina Georgieva is pleased with the improved outlook in the health sector, but encourages speed in vaccine production.
Progress in ending the health crisis could add almost $9 trillion to global GDP by 2025. But the window of opportunity is closing fast. The longer it takes to speed up vaccine production and rollout, the harder it will be to achieve these gains.
The International Monetary Fund boss is confident that the accelerated recovery is pleasing, but could also bring dispensable outcomes such as inflation, rise in interest rates, and tightening of financial conditions. Georgieva further stressed the need for a fair mechanism to redistribute vaccines from surplus countries to deficit ones. Among the mechanisms is the COVAX facility to accelerate vaccinations in poorer countries to protect their health and accelerate the recovery. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Mariama Cham.
Despite the impact of the global pandemic, IMF projects an accelerated global economic growth. From that global front, coming back home, Lamin Kemboj, a former magistrate who appears before the Truth Commission on Tuesday, testified on the arrest and conviction of Halifa Saleh and Sidia Jatta of Foria newspaper. According to Mboj, the Foria case was the first impact on the civic society shortly after the 1994 coup. when a ban was made on publication of newspapers, but Fourier refused to stop. Amindao takes us through.
As a magistrate on the bench of the state portfolio in 1994, Lamin Mbodj was in charge of the case involving Halifa Sallah and Sidia Jatta, who were arrested and brought to court for not complying with the ban on publication of newspapers in 1994. According to Mr. Mbodj, the court used to be full to its capacity as it was the first impact case on civic societies right after the military government came into power. Lamin Mbodj said both Halifa and Sidia defended themselves throughout the trial without involving a legal practitioner.
It was a difficult case, to be sincere, because despite the constitutional right of both Honorable Sidia and Honorable Halifa Sallah,
bankola nyanto aninna bankola constitutional nyanto mendi honorable Khalifa Salala and honorable Sidia Jatta wo nyanto be lori nyawnyandi
to engage a lawyer or a legal practitioner of their own choice.
Ruka lawyer nyini wala loi do kula me ya lonko etel fonglo be la fila menna,
they choose to defend themselves.
Itelu mampare wala fongol le lota purka itelu fonglu kalo ifaye.
And the proceedings then goes on a daily basis.
And
it takes a full day. So we were able to finish the trial within a month.
The witness told the commission that enjoyment of maximum freedom is what was known in the court of law, but during this trial, there was a lot of fear and tension in the atmosphere as the court was guided by armed officers. Mbodj said he passed a suspended sentence at the end of the trial, even though the two were guilty of the charged offenses.
What was the outcome? Just for the historical record.
Yes, although they were found guilty of the offenses charged, I refused to pass a custodial, in fact, a conviction on them. Instead, I passed a suspended sentence. If they fail to stop their activities as instructed by the regime, and they appear before the court on the same or similar charges, then the suspended sentence will be handed down on them.
According to the witness, sending the two to jail would have had severe consequences on the civic society by then. That's why he decided to give them a suspended sentence. After his master's, Mbodj was posted in Basse in 1997, where he's said to have learned the worst experience of the 22nd July movement. Lamin Mbodj, a native of Nyamina Dankunku, obtained LLB honors in Usman Danfodio University, later enrolled at the Nigerian Law School before he got called to the Gambia Bar in February 1994 and started working as a magistrate in May 1994. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Amindao.
From the reports by Amindao, we will now go with a short commercial break and the news continues. Stay tuned.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, this is the World Today newscast with me, Sohna Tunkara, and now to the rest of our stories. Protesters and mourners took to the streets of Myanmar on Tuesday carrying huge baskets topped with rubbish and dumping them into piles already standing on the streets. Amid reports of security forces killing 3 people in Yangon, just 2 days after 114 people were killed on the bloodiest day since the 1st February military coup. Fatmata Kasim reports.
Reports indicated that a man was killed and several others wounded on Monday when security forces fired live rounds in one Yangon neighborhood. This led to protesters in Yangon launching a garbage strike, peeling up mountains of rubbish along streets in defiance of the military crackdown. At least 114 people were killed across Myanmar on Saturday, which was the deadliest day of the crackdown on protests so far since the military took over last month. The death toll for protesters killed by the military has now topped 500, according to the Assistant Association for Political Prisoners. The EU, US, Canada, and Britain have introduced sanctions, and the US suspended a trade deal with Myanmar on Monday. Myanmar, also known as Burma, was under the rule of an oppressive military junta from 1962 to 2011. A gradual liberation began in 2010, leading to free election in 2015 and the installation of a government led by veteran opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi in 2016. In 2017, a deadly crackdown by Myanmar's army on Rohingya Muslims sent more than 500,000 fleeing into Bangladesh. For iAfrica News, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
Protesters in Myanmar launched garbage strike amid rising killings of citizens. Now in Nigeria, an estimated 90% of people rely on fuel, wood and charcoal in DR Congo rather. But authorities are initiating new measures to minimize the growing use of charcoal. Many people have taken advantage of the blooming charcoal business in the country to help improve their status. And the government-supported affordable gas business hopes to change the narrative among citizens. Details of that in this report.
The charcoal trade is a lucrative business in the DRC. Hundreds of sacks of charcoal are transported daily into the capital Kinshasa from other parts of the country. The vast majority of residents use charcoal for cooking. Berth Lumumba is a food seller who can't imagine life without it.
Charcoal really helps us to survive. For example, I use it to cook and sell food to many people around here. I have large saucepans which require charcoal stoves to cook well. I can't use any other energy source.
But while charcoal has helped Berth fend for her family, the cutting down of trees has degraded the environment. The government has now partnered with a company called Sogas to distribute low-cost gas cylinders to the public in order to reduce deforestation.
We provided $2 million to Sogas so that in return the population can have access to these tools, to these units. The way we do it here is that we provide the money, Sogas provides the units to the population at a very, very low price because of the subsidies, and then people will start using this gas on a daily basis, and we think thereafter it will discourage those that are cutting trees for charcoals because people are already using gas.
5 provinces with a growing demand for charcoal have been targeted in this project. Othniel Mpata is one of the women who has started using gas.
First of all, gas stoves make cooking fast and easy. Sometimes I get caught up with other work, but when I turn the gas on, my food gets ready in a short time. It's much better than using charcoal.
According to NGO Global Forest Watch, the DRC has lost 6% of its forest cover, mainly due to slash and burn agriculture and the use of charcoal for fuel. The DRC has struggled to protect its forests from charcoal traders and illegal loggers for decades. Environmentalists fear the cutting down of trees may lead to severe changes in weather patterns if left unchecked. Authorities have vowed to crack down on illegal activities in the forestry industry, but it remains to be seen whether that pledge will be fully implemented.
Moving on, considering the impact of the global health crisis and the significant decline of oil price, The International Monetary Fund, IMF, may reverse its initial projection of Nigeria's economic growth in 2021. The Africa's largest economy was largely disrupted to the pandemic, but the administering of the COVID-19 vaccine is a welcome development as more economies open to business, experts say.
Earlier this year, the IMF had projected a 1.5% growth for Nigeria in 2021. But with the country exiting recession in the last quarter of 2020 by posting a marginal growth of 0.11% and the price of oil rising above $50 per barrel, it's no surprise the global financial body is now considering reviewing its forecast for the country upwards. Nigeria saw its revenue badly depleted following the collapse of oil price as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic last year. But crude prices are now rising, and the country is hoping things continue along that trajectory.
So when we see a crude oil price rising or rising revenue from a non-oil sector, it provides us some relief because it means we need to borrow, we will be able to reduce our borrowing. So it's a positive thing for us.
The rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine across the world is also some cheering news for Nigeria. It's gradually bolstering demand for oil as more economies reopen for business. And in Nigeria, where mass COVID-19 vaccination has also begun, economic activities are gathering steam.
With the rollout of the vaccines, now people can interact more, countries can do business more and all of that. So I see a positive impact with the rollout of the vaccines. It will definitely affect us positively.
I strongly believe that this will have positive impact on economic growth, and is expected that Nigeria will even go higher than in Q1 than we have in Q4, because when you look at the base year for Q4, it was over 2%.
The past 1 year has been one of the toughest for Nigeria, mainly because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Unemployment has risen to 33.3%, the highest in 13 years. Inflation is at 17.33%, with food inflation alone at 21.79%. So the government is hoping the price of oil either continues to go up or doesn't come down below the $50 mark, so the economy can remain on the path of growth. But should there be any third wave of the pandemic, as some experts are fearing, then that will be bad news for Africa's largest economy.
Well, viewers, that was all from me and the rest of the crew on The World Today. Stay tuned for more of our interesting programs. I am Sohna Tunkara. Thanks for watching and bye for now.
Gambia may be the smallest country in Africa, but it will host the second largest gathering of world leaders in 2022. To successfully host the OIC summit and put the Gambia on the global stage, the